worked with the youth your entire life.
Yeah.
And
22 years.
22 years working with youth. What do they need to know about what's going on in D.C. right now?
The first thing they need to know is when you walk into Washington, D.C., the city is run by 25-year-olds.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
It's a good line.
You go through all these different offices, and there may be a member and a chief of staff there, and everyone else is 23, 24, 25, 26, 27 years old. Almost everybody there. And a lot of those folks got involved in issues and in ideas when they were in high school, in speech and debate class or in some other form or just in conversation with parents. They got involved, stayed involved in college, got involved in some way, and now they're in Washington, D.C. affecting day-to-day policy for the rest of America, and they're 24 years old. It's because they actually got engaged.
Right.
So there is something to this. If you want to really make a difference and really get engaged in something that will matter long-term, then consider talking about these issues. If you don't understand, go ask somebody.
Right. What is that pitch for the Republican brand?
There are two parties for a reason. Not every American thinks alike.
Yeah.
And even within the two parties, not everybody thinks alike even within those parties. But we do just see the world and see the role of government very different. A liberal Democrat is going to see the role of government as its function is to provide happiness for people. That's what it does. It provides happiness. If someone's sick, if someone's hurting, if someone's suffering, they provide happiness. That's what government does. A conservative Republican is going to see the role of government is to protect my right to pursue happiness. Well, that's very different. Now the role of government is not to write me a check and to send me money and to provide me a job. It's to protect my right to go get up off the couch and to go do it myself and to be able to provide for my family.
Personal responsibility.
It is. It's personal responsibility. It's what actually multiplies it out. And you can look across Europe at countries that are struggling and suffering and see these different economies that are historic, that the function of government was to provide happiness. And it just doesn't work long term. And the frightening thing is right now, that's the push. That it's more and more of a role of government to say we want to provide everything for everybody. Right. Well, long term, you can't sustain that. There's not enough people working to do that.
Why is that so important to get them involved right now?
Well, because I think most young voters are actually more conservative than they know. Yeah. Honestly, they get drawn in because it sounds good. We're going to take care of people. We're going to take care of the elderly. We're going to take care of the poor and hurting. Yeah. It sounds really good until you get down it. You should always ask a question with every issue. You should ask a simple thing: what happens after that? Yeah. Okay, we institute that, what happens after that? And that's where Republicans come in. We're trying to think long term. Okay, if we do that, this is what occurs next, and that makes it worse. So if the solution actually makes it worse, that doesn't help somebody.
Yeah, that's good.
So we need to find ways to be able to determine ways to be able to help somebody long term. There's this perception that Republicans are mean people trying to throw the elderly out and throw the poor out. Yeah. We're just mean folks. Right. That's just absolutely not true. Right. We're trying to help people at the core. What I think is best is that somebody in their own family is helping take care of their needs, rather than someone 1,200 miles away.
This debt that we are passing on to, our kids and grandkids.
Right.
Talk a little bit about that. Again, that is a big piece of what's going on in D.C.,
right.
And it's a big reason you ran for office. And another good example of why this next generation needs to get involved. But talk a little bit about that debt and where this country's heading with that issue, on that issue.
It is a huge issue.
Yeah.
Every single child when they're born now, they're saddled with about $48,000 worth of debt.
Wow.
So you talk about coming out with college debt. Each person's coming out with federal debt as well. That they're going to be obligated for at some point down the road. Everybody's talking about protecting all of these different entitlement programs for this generation now. The reality is, and everyone in this group of leadership knows it, it won't exist for the next generation. So here's what's really occurring and why I think a lot of younger Oklahomans should really get involved in politics. Because what's happening is this group of leaders is basically saying, times are tough. I'm going to make it easier on my generation by making it tougher on the next generation, and I'll make them solve it. And they're doing it two ways. They're going to drive up the debt, and they're going to spend out entitlements. And so at the end of time, when this generation is 60 and 70 years old, there won't be any Social Security, there won't be any Medicare, and if they are, they're just a slim version of what they are now. And there'll be this enormous debt. So they're going to be hit with debt, and all the entitlements go away as well. That's a bad formula. And this generation of leaders knows it. They're just not willing to make the hard decisions to solve it.
Right.
Most of these voters are very conservative. If you really ask them the core of their issues, of what things are important to them, their family, their friends, making their own personal decisions, they don't want a government that's going to decide everything for them. That's the liberal policy. I'm your parent. I'm going to decide everything for you. Well, they don't really want that.
No way.
But they just don't know the difference on it.
Right.
So I'm glad to be able to tell folks, hey, you're more conservative than you thought. Don't be afraid of the label.